Humber. And today I have Kelly Casano from our Faculty of Social and Community Services. She is the PC of our Child and Youth Care Diplomas. We're really happy that you're able to join us today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
So today we're in the Play Lab at Humber Polytechnic. So we're going to explore some of the facilities we have here, talk about the child and youth care programs, and then hopefully answer some questions as they come through. So can you just tell me a bit about this space and how students use it?
Yeah, for sure. Well, this is my absolute favorite space of all of Humber College. I purposely try and get courses to teach that we prioritize for this space.
Amazing.
So this is what we call our Play Lab. Right now it looks like we're just in one room, but this is actually made up of 4 different rooms. So I think we'll take you on a bit of a tour today.
Amazing.
And show you how it's used and how it connects to child and youth care practice. So this is our initial sort of, if you will, traditional looking classroom space, which isn't really traditional if we think about college classrooms.
Right.
It's probably a little bit more traditional if you think of an elementary school classroom. And so we do a lot of arts and crafts. You'll see we've got some supplies out here for you to see and take a look. But we do a little bit of lecturing in here, but then we really focus on the play and creativity. This is really a space where we do a lot of hands-on learning. So that our students have the ability to develop the skills and the competencies that they need to be great child and youth care practitioners.
Yeah, so a student coming into the Child and Youth Care Diploma, how quickly, in what semester would they start using this space?
Semester 1.
Amazing.
Yeah, for sure. So they'll have classes throughout their time in the program. So they might have one class in here or 2 classes per semester. Typically, the types of courses we have in this space are what we call lab-based courses. So they're the courses in which we're looking to develop the skills of our students. So to give you some examples, we have a group dynamics course where they start to understand how to work within groups and do activities and life skills with groups, with the young people. So they'll learn about the dynamics, how to navigate, how to supervise those dynamics. And this space lends itself well because, as I mentioned, we've got actually 4 rooms in here. So it allows us to take our class and break them out into smaller groups.
Right.
So that they can practice that and have some space to work in. Another course we do in here is our interviewing counseling course, which is a semester 2 course in the diploma. Again, we've got breakout rooms here, and what we do is actually practice sessions where students actually get to practice their counseling skills through role plays with their peers.
Amazing.
And then another class we have in here, which is my favorite class to teach, is what we call therapeutic activities. And this room was specifically designed for that course. Although it lends itself well to many of the classes we teach, it was particularly focused on therapeutic activities, which is where we use a variety of modalities focused on art, storytelling, puppets, music, drama, outdoor education, games, all sorts of things. Again, bringing that play to use for our students to really understand how to communicate with young people, because play is the natural mode of communication for children. And so we do a lot of playing in this space.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Can we maybe talk about some of the stuff that you have set up for us today?
Yeah, for sure. In here. So as I said, we do a little bit of lecture style in here. But we focus on a lot of different therapies. Now, by no way does a child and youth care program qualify you to be a therapist. You need to go on and do much more schooling for that. But we look at some things like art therapy, music therapy, play therapy, and we take some of those principles. We use them to understand the therapeutic value that comes from engaging young people through various modalities of play. And then we get to practice those through activities so that our students can actually take what they're learning here and apply it to their field experiences when that comes up for them. So as I mentioned, we look at how we use paints and Play-Doh and clay through activities. We do lots of different crafting because crafting can be a great stress relief for young people. It also develops motor skills. So again, when we're thinking about child and youth care, we really look at the whole development of the young person. And so we're focusing on how can we support their growth and development when it comes to not just motor skills, but their emotional development, behavioral, social, cognitive, and again, doing that through what we call therapeutic activities.
Amazing. Awesome. So I think we can move on to the next room.
Sure. Sounds good.
We will head over here.
this is one of our best spaces coming in. I'll tell you a little bit about this room. There's not many schools or classrooms, I bet, that have beanbag chairs for seating.
Comfy beanbag chairs, if not
Comfy,
that.
right? So never mind learning and teaching, but from the comfort of a beanbag chair. So I know my classes love when we get to come in this space. So in this space, we do some other types of activities. So like I said, over there in our first room, we did focus on more paints and crafts, those types of things. In here, we do a lot more gameplay. So whether that's cooperative or competitive games, we also focus on things like puppets and storytelling. So we have a lot of books. And we learn about the art of storytelling, how to actually use stories, again, as a teaching tool for children and young people. We also, I mentioned earlier about play therapy. So we've got a lot of toys here that you might find in a play therapy space. And again, we take some of the principles there to help our students understand the development around play,
Right.
Where children based on their age might fall around play. And we teach them those skills on how to play and interact based on the age of a young person and based on their needs, and how to use that to teach, again, social skills, behaviors, those types of things.
Yeah. So a child and youth worker, could you outline the ages of children and youth that they would be working with?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the beautiful thing about child and youth care is it's a big spectrum. And so I've so far talked a lot about the little ones, but we actually do a lot of activities in here to also support teens. So the spectrum that we work with is often from birth, so it could be infants, all the way to young people, often in their 20s. And we call that sort of end of teens, those early 20s, transitional age youth, where we're supporting youth moving from being a teenager into adulthood. So that's also the role of a child and youth care practitioner. And so we certainly, when we're developing or looking at our activities and the skill development for our students, we actually look across the age span. And so we'll do activities focused for little ones, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to those in their teens and their early 20s.
That's great. And I think that's important to note, just because I know for my early 20s, that's when I probably needed the most support. So it's nice to know that folks are learning how to support people, not just in those early days, but a little bit later. Can you mention some of the technology we have in this room?
Yeah, for sure. So these big things, I don't know what you think of when you see them, Paul.
The dentist.
That's right. It totally reminds me of an x-ray. I promise we're not going to do any x-rays here on your teeth. These are actually cameras. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we have a course called Interviewing and Counseling. And we do use the 4 spaces here to be able to put our students into smaller groups to be able to practice this counseling skills that they're learning. Now, this part sounds a little bit nerve-wracking. Most of my students don't like it when I first start this class, because I tell them they have to record themselves. And so that feels a little bit nervous, much like I'm feeling today that I'm on camera live. You feel those nerves sometimes when you're being filmed, but it actually becomes a great learning tool when students can go back, watch their sessions in their role plays, and then reflect on that to further grow and enhance their skill development.
Yeah.
And what's great about this space is it's a safe space to try new things, to experiment with skills, and to make mistakes before you're out in the field, right? So this is where this space really becomes so useful for our students learning, is that they really get to test and play, practice their counseling skills, and really grow as a future child and youth care practitioner, where it's safe to do so, where they've got the support of their peers and faculty.
That's amazing. And this might be a tough one, so forgive me. A lot of students who are looking at CYC, child and youth care, are also looking at early childhood education, or ECE. Could you explain the differences? 'Cause I know they're different jobs, but I think people just think, oh, we're working with children, so it must be the same. If you could differentiate those.
For sure. That's a great question. I actually get asked that a lot by students via email or when they come into the program. And so ECE stands for Early Childhood Education. They are primarily focused on birth to age 12. So they don't work with adolescents at all. Also, the settings that they work in are often quite different. There's a larger educational focus in early childhood education, with the name, obviously. Sure. So they're typically will work in the school system, early childhood education centers, and that's primarily where you're going to find ECE. Child and youth care practitioners, which is a newer term to the field. You'll often hear the term child and youth worker
Yes.
out in the field. That seems to be more popular in the field. It's the same type of role, but we're a little bit more diverse. One, with the age range that we cover,
Yep.
but also where we work. So you can often find child and youth care practitioners or child and youth workers in schools, hospitals, residential programs, custody centers, community centers, clinical settings, youth shelters, essentially anywhere that you can find young people and families, you can find a child and youth worker.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that's really helpful for students. You get a lot of emails, we get a lot of emails helping people differentiate, and they know they want to work with children and youth, they just don't know what capacity. So I think that's going to be really helpful for those watching. And then for Humber, we do have 3 different child and youth care programs.
Right.
So we have the advanced diploma and the accelerated diploma, as well as the degree.
Yeah.
I know you are the program coordinator of the diplomas. Could you start by explaining the difference between the advanced diploma and accelerated?
Yeah, absolutely. So both are the same credentials, but we have the 3-year program, which would be more geared for students coming out of high school or for students who don't already have a post-secondary education. So it is 3 years, it's 6 semesters, you're off in the summers in between. We have a fall start and a January start in that program. So we have those courses kind of running all the time over the fall and winter semesters. Within that program, our students do 3 field experiences. So they actually graduate with almost 1,000 hours in the field, which is really where the magic comes to life. I mean, this is an amazing space we're in, and we do some really cool work in here. But nothing compares to actually being out in the field and you know, practicing and doing the work with young people and learning from other professionals in the field.
Right.
The accelerated program, same advanced diploma. They also graduate with almost 1,000 hours in the field. The difference is it is geared for students who already have a post-secondary education. That could be a diploma or a degree.
Okay.
But they fast track. So it is a condensed version. They finish the program in 4 semesters, but 16 months. So they don't take a break. So that only has a September start. And they go the fall semester into the winter. They go through the summer, and then they finish with a final fall semester. So it is heavier. They do carry a bit of a heavier course load, and some of our courses are condensed in order to allow them to finish in the 16 months.
Right. And for that, the admission requirements, any diploma, any degree?
Any diploma, any degree. It doesn't have to be related to the field. We just want to ensure the students have been through post-secondary so they have an idea of what to expect, so there isn't that learning curve, so they can kind of jump right in and run with things.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So the 3-year advanced diploma, anyone with high school, grade 12 English, is that?
Yes, I believe so.
And then for the accelerated, anyone who has a previous post-secondary credential.
That's
amazing.
Right.
That's a great way to differentiate.
And then I guess we got our degree.
Yes.
Yeah, so we also have a Bachelor of Child and Youth Care. It's a 4-year degree. Students who finish their diploma get advanced standing into the degree. So they would actually go into semester 5, which is year 3 of the degree. And so what's great if someone wanted to do that option is in 5 years, you can earn your advanced diploma as well as your Bachelor in Child and Youth Care.
And that would be a great precursor for maybe teachers college or...
Absolutely. Lots of pathways. This is what's great. And
Yes.
It's not a short answer. Like, what do I do with child and youth care? Well, goodness, what can't you do with it? But for sure, if someone was interested in being a teacher, you definitely need a degree. You could do your degree in child and youth care if you wanted to. You'd certainly have a ton of knowledge and expertise on young people to be able to take that into teachers college with you. So it'd build your resume great. You'd also have your field placements, right? You could focus doing those in a school to help you get into teachers college. Some of our students want it from the degree, go on and do a master's of social work. That's another pathway for students. Some students love research, you know, and so they might go on and focus on doing a master's of education if they, you know, there's just so many things you can do. We've had students go on and do community development. There's just, I don't know, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah. And to your point, a student who does the diploma and then pathways into the final 2 years of the degree, they're going to get the best of both worlds. They're going to get the practical experience plus the theory and whatever is needed for additional education should they wish to go there. So
For sure.
that's wonderful.
Yeah, I think that's what's really great about us having, the different options and the different pathways here is students who do a diploma and want to work can go on work afterwards.
Yep.
Those who want to go on and do more school can do more school. So there's just so many options.
And to that point, just a reminder to anyone's watching, you do get up to 5 years after you finish the diploma to take advantage of any pathways. So for example, you could do the CYC diploma, graduate, start working, and then come back and upgrade to the degree later once you know that it's going to be helpful for your career.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else you wanted to mention here before we move on?
I don't think so. I wanted to show you the back room's actually my favorite space.
I will let you lead the way then.
Has some of my favorite tools in here. So let's venture back in here and we'll take a look. So when this play lab, it was really designed with our therapeutic activities class. Do you want to have a seat for a minute? In mind, but we really did also try to mimic what students might see in a community agency, right? So there really was that thought and that intention. So as we've been walking through, if you notice, we have these glass windows that are actually two-way mirrors. And those were put into place because a lot of agencies, especially child welfare agencies who might provide supervised visits for families and young people, it allows workers to be able to see what's going on, but without actually having to be in this space.
Sure.
And so we really structured this space to mimic what students might find in some agencies. We actually had an agency using this space pre-COVID for counseling sessions. And so this was deemed or set up, we call it our family room. And the agency would actually, this is where parents would wait while their kids would be in the other rooms for counseling services.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it really just does lend itself well to get an understanding of how you can use space. And one of the things we also teach is about the therapeutic milieu. The milieu is just a fancy word for the environment.
Okay.
How do you make the environment safe, welcoming, inviting? And so I find this space, along with the beanbags, to be super cozy, right? To hang out and to learn and to do your work. And so we have a few different things going on here. One of the things we focus on in therapeutics activities is supporting young people's emotional regulation through sensory integration. And so I don't know if you've ever heard of sand tray or sand play.
Other than my own childhood, not in a professional
setting. In a big
setting.
sandbox, right? So sand is also a wonderful way in terms of playing and connecting with young people and using your counseling skills to support them in being able to tell their story. Okay. And so we can certainly use this as a tool or to look at ways to create safer spaces for an adolescent. So this really can be used for all sorts of ages. Yeah. So it becomes a great learning tool, practicing tool for our young people. The sand itself also supports sensory stimulation. Some kids love it, some kids don't. That's part of the other learning we have to do in terms of some love to get our hands dirty and others don't. So to have lots of different tools becomes important for our understanding. So have you ever heard of a snoozeland room?
I have not.
A snoozeland room. So we don't have a snoozeland room, but we do have a snoozeland corner. So let's walk back over here for a minute, and I'm going to show you that. Quite a few schools, especially elementary schools, I find now have started to put what we call snoozeland rooms into their spaces. Also some clinical settings that support children's mental health, supporting young people who are neurodivergent. Essentially, snoozeland itself is a Dutch word. It stands for snuffle and dose.
Okay.
So what it's about is really about how we calm the senses. And so it's about, again, sensory integration and how we use our senses to help ourselves if we're feeling anxious or agitated or frustrated. And so this is a corner, not a room. Typically it would be a room, but we're working with our corner here again so that we can support our students in understanding how to use senses and how to use a space like this to help a young person learn to regulate their emotions and connect with their body, because that becomes really important for regulation. And so one of the things we encourage is actually experimenting with our senses, seeing what our body likes and what it responds to. And so for some, it might be this bubbly light and, kind of feeling tranquil, losing yourself and watching the bubbles flow and the colors change. But for others, it might be around touch.
Yeah.
Or weight. So we have, I haven't pulled out everything here, but I pulled out a couple of things. You want to lift that?
It feels like my blanket at home.
Hey, it's heavy. So we've
Yeah,
got
it's about
some
10
weighted
pounds.
toys.
Yeah.
We have weighted blankets. Again, all to support emotional regulation.
Yeah, I feel better already.
You right?
Yeah. This is awesome. So in what context would this space be? Let's say there's an interview happening here with the sand. When might they move over to this space?
For sure. So we actually used a couple of ways. So like I said, in our therapeutic activities course, and actually all three, I should highlight, all three of our programs, the diplomas, the degree, all have a therapeutic activities course built in. So no matter which program you went into, you would get the opportunity to experience that course and the different modalities. So that course focuses on sort of each week doing learning about sand play, learning about snoozling rooms and emotional regulation, or puppets or things like that. So once our students have those kinds of skills, though, often what we will try to do is also integrate that play or those activities into like counseling. So when they're in the counseling class and they're role playing, no young person wants to sit like we were sitting on a couch,
Of course.
And just talk about things. And so when we can engage young people through play, the conversations or the counseling that comes through is going to be much more successful. And so, often we talk about following the lead of the young person. And so it really is child-centered. So you might start off playing in some sand, but child
might see the bubbles and
want to come over here. And this would allow students to follow the lead of the child through role play. Yeah.
That's awesome. Anything else you wanted to highlight in this room? I know there's a lot of stuff kind of tucked in every nook and cranny, so
for
a lot
sure
to go through.
And we'd be here for hours if I talked about everything. And if they're coming into the program, well, they'll get firsthand experience on, just how we use this space. And we get creative at looking and brainstorming new ways to use it. So, I shared before, sometimes we had another agency would come and use this space. And so often when we would check in and talk with parents, we would find kids would naturally gravitate over here and just start playing while the adults were talking.
Of course,
right?
yeah.
So it's interesting to kind of see, how this space can be used and might be used when you're out in an agency so that our students can really connect what they're learning here and take it into industry.
Amazing.
That's the goal.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's move on to room number 4.
Okay.
And even more things to play
I
with.
know.
Holy moly.
Even more. So we do also look at, board games, and specific games again as a teaching tool again for young people. These are some of my favorites to help little ones.
I saw these in the last room.
Are they fun? Yeah, we have them a few out. So they actually teach about, can be used to teach young people about identifying emotions, because you have to understand what emotion you're feeling, in order to support starting to regulate some of those feelings. So we've got lots of toys like that to be used. I did mention that we focus a lot on play. And so you'll see we also have things like baby dolls and regular dolls and stuff, again, because we do have our students engage in a lot of different role play, scenario-based learning, hands-on, experiential learning. And so we've tried our best, and actually I think we've done a great job. I shouldn't say we've tried our best. We've done a fantastic job at having state-of-the-art toys and tools that you would find in many play therapist office, art therapy spaces, to really give our students a great understanding. And because of this foundation that they'll get here and understanding how to use a lot of these therapeutic tools, if they have a dream of one day going on to be a play therapist or an art therapist, or that, they've got that foundation and they can go on and do more schooling and to grow that. And this wouldn't be totally new learning for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of those students, what would make an ideal applicant, for what type of attributes would a student have that we would recommend they go into child and youth care or the diploma or degree?
Right, for sure. So if we think about an accountant, they use calculators.
Yep.
We don't have tools like that. I mean, we certainly have toys, but the main tool of a child and youth care worker or child and youth care practitioner is what we call the use of self. So we are actually the tool.
Right.
We're the ones who do the work with our young people. And so while we've got all these great toys and activities and strategies, and how to intervene and support young people, it really is about how we use ourselves and how we build that relationship. And so for me, when I think about what do our students need, what do they need to come in with, because we're going to teach you a lot here, but I need people who are caring, people who believe that change is possible, people who are non-judgmental, who are open, working within diversity, working not just with young people, but also open to working with families, because we really want to take that holistic approach when we're working with young people. The child doesn't live and exist in isolation, right? There's a whole world out there for them, and we need to be able to support all aspects of that young person and what their needs are. So being open to that is really important. Students who have a good handle already on their own emotional regulation in terms of emotional maturity, so that they can be the support for that young person or that family who's facing adversity, who needs someone to stand in their corner, to be their cheerleader, to be their advocate, to give them the skills that they need to succeed in life.
Would you be able to identify any misconceptions people might have about child and youth work or practitioners?
For sure. I often hear sometimes that we're like a glorified babysitter.
Oh, gosh.
Right? It comes out. But here's why I think we get that. People don't always understand the therapeutic value of play.
They just see you playing.
They see us playing.
Yes.
And they just like, what is this? What is it actually doing for the child? But again, this is how young people communicate. It's their natural way of communicating, especially little ones. And so child and youth care practitioners, we're purposeful and we're intentional in how we play. And that's the learning that happens in this space.
Right.
So it's not just we're randomly playing with a dollhouse or figurines or pulling out a game board. We've got goals behind what we're doing. There's teaching, there's mentoring in there, there's life skills in there, and we're doing it all through creative tools and modalities.
Yeah, almost like how my mom used to hide vegetables under the cheese of the pizza in some scenarios.
For sure. Blend the broccoli in with some pineapple in a smoothie. Yeah.
I'm just going to check to see if we have any questions from the chat. If you do have any questions, please feel free to use the chat as we go. We just have a lot of thank you so far and people appreciating that we're putting this on. So I'll take a moment to thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Is there anything else that you think people should know about Humber and Humber's access to folks in the CYC industry and how we're connected to them?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think we have a stellar faculty team. A lot of our faculty are published, not just with articles, but also in books. I don't think we have a single faculty who isn't still active working in the field.
That's such a good point. And I think, and I'll let you continue, but I think it's important for folks to know that most of the teachers at Humber are folks who are working in the industry. They have up-to-date connections and they know what the industry is like today, not 10 years ago, which is super important.
Yeah, that's right. Definitely a current faculty team. And we're always learning ourselves, to make sure we are current, and our practice certainly helps that. I think one feeds the other, right?
Of course.
Teaching helps our practice helps our teaching. And so, yeah, even our part-time faculty, our full-time, everybody's still connected and active and doing things in the field, which is fabulous. So that helps us in terms of networking. And as I mentioned, our students do 3 field placements in both of the diplomas. And so that really helps, again, making those agency contacts, networking, understanding the field. And 3 opportunities could potentially give you 3 different settings. So, again, really there you can start to see, oh, I love this population, or I love this setting. And, and again, learn about your own skills and what you're excited about and what you're passionate for.
And I think with the work integrated learning opportunities, by the time they even get to that first one, they've already had all this experience in rooms like this. So they're able to just hit the ground running and blow them away when they get to that point.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'll check again for questions. Wow, this is a very beautiful. I can't wait to see this. A lot of folks who are really excited. I don't see any questions in the chat, so it sounds like we're doing a great job explaining things. Is there anything else that you want future students, applicants, or anything to know kind of between now and when we start the next semester in the fall?
For sure. Well, we have an orientation or a Meet Your Faculty coming up on August 27th, I believe.
Okay, yep.
So that always happens before the start of any semester in case someone's listening and they wanted to come in January, because we have a January start as well.
Right.
So always about the week before classes start, we do a Meet Your Faculty event. So you can come, not just meet your faculty, but also meet your peers, tour the campus. I think we're so lucky down here at the lake. We have a beautiful campus, you know, walk 5-10 minutes south, you're at the lake,
Yeah.
and you can hang out. We really are spoiled here in terms of the space we're in. And, you know, just where we're located, easily accessible through transit.
Mhm.
So, and lots of wonderful, delicious places to eat.
Yes.
Because that's important. So yeah, I think we're in a great space.
And with the work integrated learning opportunities, do students usually get it in a certain area of Toronto? Do you see kind of patterns there? Can they do
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So here's even more fun, exciting stuff. Really, our students can do their field experiences anywhere within work integrated learning. So students will have a field advisor who will support them, and they will have postings up of agencies who are looking for students. But students can also go out on their own and find their own. Like
Right.
if there's something they really want to make sure they're doing, and they're not stuck in the GTA or the Toronto.
Gotcha.
So our field advisors primarily connect with agencies, of course, within the GTA and Peel region and York region, to support our students. But, you know, if a student was living out in Barrie, let's say, and commuting in, they could totally find a Secura field experience for work integrated learning out in the Simcoe area.
Sure.
And then, you know, come on in on 1 day a week.
Yeah.
For their classes.
They're definitely not limited. That's great to hear.
No, for sure.
I mean, and is that limited to Canada, likely?
Well, no. So
Okay.
I'd say prior to COVID, you know, turned our world upside down.
Yes,
But
it did.
prior to COVID, for sure, we had students doing international field
Oh, wow.
experiences as well. And I think since we've come out of COVID, we've been out of it now for, you know, a few years. We're starting to see those international pieces picking back up, and
Gotcha.
students are becoming a little bit more interested in it again. So again, we do have faculty who would support a student who wanted to go and do a field experience in another province even, or
Right.
outside of Canada. So those options do exist for students who want to explore something like that. Yeah, so.
Amazing.
Lots
I'm just
of
going to check here one more time to see if we have any questions. Nothing new popping up. So I think we can wrap it up. Again, thank you so much for,
No
this is
problem.
actually Kelly's last day before summer holidays. So thank you for spending that last day with us, or at least
problem.
part of it. And if anyone wants to reach out, please just send us an email at student.recruitment@humber.ca. If when Kelly's back, we'll send it over to her. If not, we'll find you someone who can answer your questions throughout the summer. Again, that's student.recruitment@humber.ca. And then on the program pages, I'm assuming your contact information is there
Is
as well.
there,
Okay.
yeah, for sure, under contact. And hopefully I'll see some of you in the fall.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, and I hope
problem.
you have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you so much for coming by to see
Yeah.
our cool space.
So happy to be here.